My name is Maren, 18 years old. The bathtub water was still warm when I found it, and my laptop sat at the bottom like a drowned animal. For a moment, I couldn't move. The ripples around it faded until the entire surface went still, a quiet mirror reflecting the overhead bulb. The faint blue charging light blinked once, almost like a dying heartbeat, before disappearing completely. It didn't feel real at first. It felt like one of those dreams where you try to run, but your legs won't move, where sound becomes muffled and your own breath turns thick in your throat. I stood in the doorway, hands cold against the frame, and stared. Behind me, I heard the familiar shuffle of soft slippers and the rustle of a towel. Haley's voice followed, slicing clean through the air. "Oops," she said lightly, wrapping the towel around her glossy hair. "You shouldn't leave things near the tub. Some of us actually take care of ourselves." Her smirk was unchanged from childhood, the same victorious curl of her lips she'd use when stealing attention, or toys, or praise. But this time, the target was everything I had built for the last 8 months. My future, my escape route, my last shot at a life beyond these walls. I stepped forward slowly, like approaching a grave. The water was lukewarm as I reached in and gripped the laptop, lifting its dripping weight from the tub. Water streamed over my sleeves, down the tile, and soaked into my pajama pants. I felt all of it and none of it. "You did this," I whispered. Haley tilted her head with mock innocence. "Oh, please. Don't act like this is some high-stakes movie. You really think you were actually going to win that internship? Dad says losers pretend they're victims. Looks like you're proving him right." Then she walked out humming, leaving the trail of her designer perfume behind. The silence that followed felt louder than any scream. The deadline was in 3 hours. I didn't cry. Not yet. I rushed to the kitchen, the laptop dripping down my arms as if bleeding out. My father sat at the table with a beer, eyes glued to a sports rerun. The crackling commentary filled the room, while the smell of stale peanuts and old sweat lingered around him. "Dad, please," I begged, breath shaking. "She dumped my laptop. I need rice, tools, anything. I need help." He didn't even turn down the volume. He glanced at me with the same look he reserved for broken appliances. "So maybe next time you'll keep your junk away from where adults use the bathroom." "Dad, that's not—" He raised a hand sharply. "Fair? Fair would be if I spent tuition on Haley's photography degree instead of wasting it on your nerd project. Some people were born to succeed. Others—" He took a long sip. "Should stay where they belong." The words lodged deep inside me, the way they always had. But this time, they didn't sting the same. This time, they sank into something hardening within me. "Where's Mom?" I asked quietly. "She's out shopping with Haley. Said she deserves a break before the wedding." A bitter laugh slipped from him. "You? Maybe take a break from dreaming." Something inside me cracked. I went to my room, leaving wet footprints behind me. The air smelled like burnt circuits and soap residue. I sat on the edge of my bed, looking at the ruined device. The keys were dead. The ports fizzled with tiny bubbles. The screen was gone. My project, months of coding, testing, researching, was gone too. And when the submission portal timed out hours later, a red time expired message burned across the screen like a verdict. I didn't scream this time. I didn't cry. I just stared. When Mom came home, I tried again. "She destroyed my project," I said. "You can check the bathroom." Mom didn't even let me finish. "Haley said you're being dramatic again. You always need attention whenever she has something good going on. She ruined my chance at a career." "Career?" Mom scoffed. "Haley's getting married, building a life. And you? Sitting in your room pretending to be some genius when you can't even keep a job. Do you think companies want unstable girls?" "I'm not unstable," my voice cracked. "Enough," she snapped. "This family is tired of your excuses. You're embarrassing us." I looked at Mom, then Dad, both staring at me as if I was the problem, the burden, the disappointment they had been waiting to discard. Haley's footsteps appeared on the stairs, and she leaned forward with that same triumphant smile. "Don't yell at her, Mom. She just needs therapy." They laughed together, a choir of cruelty. That night, my room was a collapsing universe. I sat in the dark, watching my reflection in the dead laptop screen. The person looking back didn't feel like me. Eyes hollow, shoulders slumped, a ghost wearing my skin. Then something shifted. It wasn't rage or despair, it was emptiness. Clean, steady, dangerous emptiness. A space where fear used to be. A space where a plan could grow. I remembered being a little girl building cardboard robots with Dad's tools, Before he decided Haley's smile was easier to brag about, he used to call me his builder. Then one day, the name disappeared. Now, in the silence, I opened my drawer and pulled out an external drive, my one backup from 2 months ago. Not enough to rebuild everything, but enough to prove the truth. I stared at it, fingers trembling. Maybe I couldn't save the project, but maybe I could save myself. Before the sun rose, I went to the bathroom. The water was still in the tub, gray and cold. The overhead light flickered as I crouched beside it. I took photos, angles, cords, charger position, evidence. Then I filmed myself describing everything calmly, just like a witness statement. I headed downstairs, heartbeat steady. Dad's work computer sat on the desk, screen glowing from sleep mode. He was a manager at a construction supply firm, the same firm sponsoring the tech scholarship I had applied for. I opened his inbox. My stomach dropped. My application email had been forwarded to him last week. Haley had been on his account. She had opened it. She had read my pitch. She had known exactly how strong it was. She didn't just destroy my laptop. She planned it. Dad, too, had let it happen. I copied the emails and closed the folder with shaking fingers. When Haley woke up, she floated into the kitchen in a cloud of perfume and entitlement, iced coffee in hand. "Morning," she chirped. I sat calmly at the table. "You shouldn't have touched my work," I said without looking up. She tilted her head. "What's done is done." I smiled faintly. "That's what you think." For the first time, her smirk slipped. Just a fraction. And in that moment, I felt it fully. The shift, the turning of a page I hadn't realized was already moving. I wasn't afraid of them anymore. I wasn't anything. And when you're empty, you can finally plan. I left the house that morning with nothing but an empty laptop bag and a plan forming like storm clouds behind my eyes. The air outside was cold, sharp enough to sting my cheeks awake. It felt strangely good, like the world was reminding me I still existed beyond those walls. The university's computer lab sat at the far end of campus, glowing through tall windows like a lantern in the early light. Only a few students roamed the hallways at this hour, their footsteps echoing against the tile. When I pushed open the lab door, the familiar hum of machines greeted me, steady and soft, like a heartbeat I could finally sync with. Mason looked up from his desk, confusion settling across his face. "Maren, what are you doing here this early?" I held up the external drive. "I need help. Everything's gone except this." His eyebrows shot up as I explained, voice steady even as my hands trembled. "She dumped it in this tub," he repeated slowly. "Your sister actually did that?" I nodded. "I need to rebuild whatever I can. If I can prove the work came from me, maybe something can be salvaged." He didn't hesitate. "Then let's get to work." For hours, the lab became our world. Lines of code crawled across the screens like fragile fragments of memory. We dug through every corner of the backup. Logs, screenshots, old drafts, metadata, even tiny cached files that Mason somehow coaxed back to life. I moved between monitors, my mind running on a mix of caffeine, adrenaline, and pure, stubborn resolve. Occasionally, a wave of hopelessness washed over me, but Mason would glance over as if sensing it. "You built the foundation yourself," he said. "No one can fake that kind of mind." It shouldn't have mattered, but it did. By late afternoon, my back ached, my eyes burned, and my stomach growled angrily. Still, we kept going. On one of the final recovery passes, Mason leaned back and grinned at the screen. "This is enough," he said triumphantly. "We can prove this was your project." I exhaled so hard it felt like I'd been holding my breath for days. My legs shook beneath me, relief and exhaustion folding together. Then my laptop chimed with a new notification. "Subject, your application inquiry." My heartbeat stumbled. I clicked the email open. "Dear Maren, we received an application yesterday from Haley Hale using identical project material to yours. Please clarify your relationship and whether this was a collaborative submission." My fingers went numb. Haley hadn't just destroyed my laptop. She had stolen the backup submission file I'd sent weeks earlier. She had submitted my work under her name. My throat tightened, rage mixing with something deeper. A bruised, aching hurt I didn't want to acknowledge. For a moment, I felt myself unraveling. But then something shifted again, that same cold clarity from the night before. This wasn't a disaster. This was an opportunity. She had given me exactly what I needed. I typed my response with careful precision, each sentence sharpened to a quiet blade. "Thank you for notifying me. I confirm this project is solely my original work. Attached are time-stamped drafts, code logs, and communications verifying authorship. I am also filing an academic integrity report with the university. including documentation of property destruction. I hit send, hands steadier than I expected. Next, I walked straight to the ethics office. The woman behind the counter, a stern professional in her mid-40s, watched without expression as I presented the evidence. Bathtub photos, video recordings, recovered code logs, the forwarded emails from Dad's inbox, and time-stamped security footage showing Haley carrying my laptop upstairs. When she finished reviewing it all, she leaned back, jaw tightening. "If this checks out," she said quietly, "your sister will be blacklisted from every affiliated program, and your father, he knew about this?" I nodded. He laughed. Something flickered behind her eyes. Not sympathy exactly, but a kind of respect. "We'll take it from here." By evening, the first aftershocks hit. Haley's phone erupted during her wedding rehearsal dinner. The scholarship committee had already begun their verification process, CCing her university and her fiancé. The same man who'd written a glowing recommendation letter about her work ethic. Mom called next, voice razor-sharp with simmering fury. "What did you do, Maren?" "I told the truth," I said. "That's all." "You ruined your sister's reputation." "She ruined her own." Dad tried intimidation afterward. His voice came through the phone like gravel dragged across concrete. "You think you've won? You embarrassed this family." I pressed record on my phone camera, letting my voice settle into a quiet calm I didn't quite recognize as mine. "I think you embarrassed yourselves, Dad. The board copied the investigation to your company's sponsor email, didn't they? That's what happens when you help someone commit fraud." The silence on his end was so abrupt, so complete, I knew I'd hit home. A breath, a click, call ended. 2 days later, the fallout erupted fully. The scholarship committee issued a formal notice. Haley was disqualified for academic misconduct and unethical behavior. The university initiated an internal review. Her fiancé withdrew from the engagement, citing personal integrity concerns. Dad's company quietly removed him from the sponsorship board pending an internal audit. Haley's perfect image, the one she polished daily like a prized mirror, shattered beyond repair. Mom called again, sobbing, furious, oscillating between blame and desperation. "How could you do this to your sister?" "I didn't," I replied. "She did it to herself." Meanwhile, I received an official message from the scholarship board. "We admire your integrity and determination under pressure. We would like to reinstate your interview." I read the words twice, barely breathing. All those nights coding on a second-hand keyboard. All those mornings waking before dawn just to dream in peace. All the humiliation, the shouting, the silence. It hadn't been for nothing. The interview was scheduled for the following week. When the day arrived, I wore a borrowed laptop and a blouse that didn't quite fit, but I felt steadier than I had in months. The panel asked their questions. I answered calmly, honestly, not trying to impress them, simply sharing the truth. "Some people tried to take credit for my work," I said softly. "I didn't let them." When I walked out of that room, the sunlight felt different, warmer, brighter, real. For the first time, I believed I had already won, maybe not the scholarship, but something bigger. My freedom. That night, my phone buzzed. A message from Haley. "You destroyed me." I stared at it for a long moment, feeling nothing but the faint echo of a bruise that no longer hurt. Then I typed back one line. "No, Haley. You finally met someone who stopped letting you win." 2 weeks later, the email arrived at dawn, glowing on my phone screen in the dim light of my room like a small sun. "Congratulations, Maren. We're pleased to inform you that you've been selected for the National Internship Program. Your project ranked in the top 3 submissions." I read it once, twice, again. By the 4th time, my hands were trembling so badly I had to sit down. The air felt too thin, too bright, too unreal. 8 months of work, years of being dismissed, a lifetime of feeling small. And now, here it was, proof that I was more than what they told me I was. I pressed the phone to my chest, eyes stinging. For a second, I almost wished someone could hear the news with me, someone who cared. But that was a wish I'd buried a long time ago. When I walked into the living room to pack my bags, Dad was on the couch, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low and harsh, the tone he used when cornered and pretending he wasn't. He froze when he noticed me with my suitcase. His lip curled. "Where do you think you're going?" I met his eyes, my voice calm and steady. "The internship starts Monday." He blinked, stunned, as though I'd just spoken in another language. "You're joking." "No," I said, "I'm leaving this house, and I'm not coming back." He slammed the phone down. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you treat us?" A bitter laugh rose in my throat. "You mean the insults? The beatdowns? The humiliation? Or watching Haley destroy everything I worked for?" Mom appeared in the doorway, wringing her hands like she was the world's most devoted martyr. "You can't just walk out," she said, voice trembling with performative grief. "We're your family." Family. The word lay between us like a broken object no one wanted to claim. "I needed family years ago," I said, "not just now that you're falling apart." Haley emerged next, pale and exhausted. Her mascara had dried in streaks along her cheeks, and her hair, usually perfect, was pulled into a messy knot like she hadn't slept in days. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, but in presence, like the spotlight she'd always lived under had finally switched off. "You're happy now?" she hissed. "You ruined my life." I didn't flinch, I didn't shout, I didn't match her anger. "I didn't ruin anything," I said softly. "You ruined mine for years. I just finally stopped letting you." She came closer, eyes wild. "You think you're better than us now? You think winning some stupid internship makes you—" I shook my head, cutting her off gently. "No, I don't think I'm better. I think I'm free." Something in her expression cracked. Not the polished mask she always wore, but something deeper, something fragile. Her voice softened, almost a whisper. "They're saying it's your fault. Mom and Dad lost everything. Dad got suspended. People are talking. I can't even show my face at the university." For the first time I saw it. Not anger, but fear. Real fear. The kind I used to feel every day. But pity didn't grow in me. Not yet. Not after everything. Dad cut in, slamming his beer bottle so hard the table rattled. "If you walk out that door," he growled, "don't bother coming back." We stared at each other. A lifetime of swallowed words hung between us. At last I smiled. Small, tired, but real. "That's the first kind thing you've ever said to me." I turned, lifted my bag, and opened the door. Sunlight spilled across the floor, bright and clean. I stepped through without looking back. I didn't hear Mom's gasp or Haley's choked breath or Dad's muttered curse. The door shut behind me with a final click, sealing my childhood inside. And I didn't feel afraid at all. 2 months later, I stood in a glass high-rise office overlooking the San Francisco skyline, badge clipped to my blouse, the company logo glowing beside my name. Every morning, I walked through the lobby feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Light. Not just relief, but possibility. My project had been shared among tech blogs and design forums, praised for its innovation and resilience. The nights in the lab, the code I'd written with trembling hands, it meant something now. Not just to a board, not just to a panel, but to me. I lived in a small studio apartment above a noisy street. I made noodles on a tiny stove. My furniture was mismatched. My mattress creaked. The walls were thin, but it was mine. I breathed easily in that space. Some nights, though, when the city went quiet and the fog rolled in from the bay, I'd think about the house I left behind. Not with longing, but with an odd, distant ache, like remembering a place where someone else had lived. Then, one evening in the office, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, an email popped up in my inbox. From Haley Hale. Subject, "Please call me." My heartbeat didn't change. My hands didn't shake. I stared at the words with a stillness I couldn't have imagined months earlier. I almost deleted it, but curiosity had its own gravity. I opened the message. "Maren, please." Mom and Dad lost the house. Dad got fired after the sponsorship review. Mom is blaming herself. They're saying it's all your fault. They're scared, they're angry, they're falling apart. "Please call me. I don't know what to do anymore." For a long moment, I said nothing. My reflection stared back from the office window. Older somehow, steadier, carved from something stronger than before. A part of me wondered what it would feel like to go back, to forgive, to fix, to save. But another part, the part that remembered the bathtub, the laughter, the insults, the years of being invisible, closed the door gently but firmly. I set my fingers on the keyboard. I typed slowly, deliberately. "I spent my whole life begging for understanding. You gave me silence. Now you'll learn how it feels." I hit send. The message vanished into the quiet. Outside, the fog draped itself over the city like a soft blanket. The streetlights flickered on, glowing through the haze. I gathered my things, shut down my computer, and walked toward the elevator. As the doors closed, I felt something settle inside me. Not triumph, not revenge. Peace. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't fighting. I wasn't pleading to be seen. I had built a life where I didn't need their approval, where I didn't need them at all. And for the first time in years, I smiled. Not because I escaped them, but because I finally found me.